Hello, and welcome to the FEMpower You podcast, where we discuss topics to help empower women personally, professionally, and financially. I'm your host, Sibongile Ngako, and on today's episode, I am super excited to be joined by Isabelle Winkles. What are some of the ways in which you have or women should think about financial literacy in terms of the company that they're working for or whoever their employer is?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I actually, as CFO of Braze, I actually spend a lot of time thinking about this for the company and actually executing on quite a bit of enablement for our employee base. So I know how important it is. And I actually get to see firsthand, in a lot of cases, the limited amount of knowledge that people have, but I get to take a leading role in helping to educate people, which is really rewarding. So first of all, educating yourself on the financial health of your own organization. Now, if you work for a private company, that can be a little bit more challenging. If it's not a publicly traded company, getting your hands on financial statements and actual results can be a little bit more challenging. If you work for a public company, there is quite a lot of information that is available to you on a quarterly basis. And learning to read, and even at just a high level, understanding what a P&L looks like. What's the size of my company's revenue? How is that revenue growing? What's the size of the cost base? Am I working for a profitable company? There are many publicly traded companies that are not yet profitable, and that's okay. They may have a growth profile that can support that. They may have a funding profile that can support that. How much cash burn is my company running through? Am I concerned that, they may run out of cash or have to raise money at some point? So being able to read financial statements and understanding just intrinsically what's going on with your own organization. Again, much easier to do at a public company versus a private company. Mm-hmm. The second piece of information that's really important for you to understand is things like your benefits, right? So what does your benefit plan look like? Does the company offer a 401k? Is there a matching program? Matching programs within a 401k is kind of like free money because you put pre-tax dollars in your 401k and the company adds to it. And it's not in your base, it's not in your bonus, it's not in an agreed to contract necessarily based on what they said they would give you as salary. It is just added tax-free into your 401k. And that's an incredible and powerful thing to understand, and making sure that you can find a way to maximize that is really important. Same thing with benefits, right? If you have a spouse and you have two different choices of benefits, healthcare benefits with one of your spouse or yourself, which one's better? Which one is most level of care for the lowest price? So really being able to understand this and not being afraid of doing some math and doing some calculations and wrapping your head around that. And then the third piece, and this is probably the most complicated, but one I find very, very interesting just because of my passion for financial services and financial analytics generally, is perhaps as an employee, you receive equity. And equity can take a few different forms. You can receive just straight stock in the form of restricted stock units. You might receive stock options, and understanding how those work. What is the strike price? What is the vesting period? What are the tax implications? Are they what's called ISOs or NSOs? These are all buzzwords that people throw around, and I won't go into the nuances or subtleties of how all of this works. But if you are at an organization that offers this is financial reward to you as an employee, and understanding both the risks and the rewards associated with that type of instrument that might be granted to you is really important. And I will say I've got a lot of really smart people at this company who are very, very good at the specific jobs that they do, who are actually very much not knowledgeable about equity. And so, finding ways to educate yourself on that, and then asking questions within your organization if you are at a place that grants that kind of benefit is really, really important.
I couldn't agree more with pretty much everything you just said. On the equity front, it's funny, when I first got offered RSUs, I had to go and look up what that was. Because it's one of those things, quite frankly, where if you haven't been in an environment that offers that, or haven't had cause to know what that is, you're just kind of at a loss. You don't know until you know. And so, to your point, and kind of touching on our earlier discussion, it's one of those things that can be daunting. But nonetheless, you do have to make sure that you're asking those questions, that you're reaching out to your benefits or comp team, that you're doing research, that you're talking to your financial advisor in terms of how best to maximize the sale of shares. And so, yes, I mean, completely agreed with everything you said about equity. And then on the 401k front, I mean, I've talked about 401ks before, and I do think it's one of those benefits that kind of get overlooked, frankly, because folks think, well, it's not money that anyone's giving me, and therefore, what's the real benefit? There are the tax advantages, and then for most employers, many employers, there are also the matching benefits advantages, and that, to your point, is basically free money. Now, it's free money that you only get to the extent that you contribute yourself, usually up to a certain percentage. But nonetheless, that's something that, definitely has to be factored into one's total comp package, and certainly into one's long range and holistic financial plan. And then in terms of looking into the company that you're working for and making sure that you're asking those questions, obviously, to your point, if they're publicly traded, there's information out there in the form of SEC filings and other information. But I was even doing research on a company not too long ago. And sometimes if you just kind of do a negative media search or, other kinds of searches, even if the company isn't publicly traded, you can see kind of what is Bloomberg saying about this company? What kind of coverage has there been in the media? Who are the investors? Quite a few times, even with a pre-IPO or private company, you can find a decent amount of information of companies out there to at least inform your decision if you're thinking of joining a company or participating somehow in the governance structure of the company, which was the case of the company I was researching. And it's interesting because I don't know if it's the fact that there have been so many startups, in the past 12, 18 months because of the influx of cash. But I've been hiring for my team, and I've talked to at least 2 or 3 people who are working for startups. And part of the reason for which they're looking for new jobs is because the investor money went away, and it's having, impact from a payroll and just general financial stability standpoint. So can't emphasize enough the importance of looking into companies that you're working for, particularly if they're in that early stage, and particularly if they're not publicly traded.